I'm here reporting on-site at Identity Week Europe 2025. We've entered the second day. I'm joined now by Micha Gier, who's Global Project Manager of IM at ING Bank. It's really great to catch up with you today. We haven't met. Lots of discussions today happening at Identity Week around identity access management, among other topics. What does a proactive approach to identity security look like for you?
A proactive identity management means knowing identities. And now we have a difference between internal identities. Internal is the workforce, external are the customers. You need to validate to know who they are. And I see currently the biggest threat about impersonation of people. So identity theft, both externally as internally. Externally, it will hit the customers because someone else can take over their identity and behave like they are the customer. And that will harm the person whose identity is stolen, or it will harm or both the company that's being threatened by this identity. And internally, it's a risk because if someone impersonates to be someone else and then has access to building and infrastructure, it's another potential risk.
And this is critical in banking.
In banking from all sides. So if you have a banking account and someone impersonates to be you and takes all the money, no one likes that.
How are you unifying your customer identity and access management?
We first simplified the whole onboarding process, so to make sure it's easy as possible. We still have different services that we provide and not are all streamlined yet. That would be a next step to make sure that you're being verified once as an identity, onboarded, and that you can take all the services. We have grown over the years from being a national financial service to an international financial services. They're independent entities, and there we have still legal requirements to be identified for all these entities if you do business there. Main goal will be in the end to have one identity that can be used across all services.
And as you're evolving identity technologies, is it hard to integrate new systems with legacy systems, existing infrastructure?
Looking from a customer perspective, it's relatively easy because all the front end is built on modern technology. Their integration is easy. It's more to the back end and for the workforce where the challenges lie. There we have more legacy systems and environment. And we're building and integrating capabilities to also be able to secure the legacy environments.
Looking at the threat environment, how do you manage the threat of machine versus human identities?
Well, first of all, I don't make a distinction from the start. The risk is more in not knowing identities. If it's a machine identity or a human identity. If you don't know them, you cannot manage it. And that's where the biggest risk is. Then looking at the difference between machine and human identities, they also have in common they always need to be managed in some kind of a way. Humans, relatively easy. Then we have other accounts like robotic accounts, we do not see them as machine accounts. We treat them as human identities. So they should have a manager so that accesses can be managed and approved. For machine identities is different because they have different use cases and different way of working. Once we know them, they need to be secured and safeguarded. So no one should have access unless it is controlled. But again, first you need to know your machine identity before you can manage it. Once you know them, you need to start managing them. And then you have your legacy accounts there as well, which are harder to manage. And for that, we are building and using gateways to ensure that you will still have proper managed access before being able to use them.
Absolutely. What are the challenges as well are you facing as a bank? You know, for example, we've talked about the machine identities, but also maybe excessive privileges.
With all the,
access.
yeah, that's a good question. With all these adding requirements, regulatory requirements, either coming from the ECB, from the banking institutes, we are forced to more and more control the accesses. And there we have to make a differentiation between the normal accesses and the privileged accesses. And privileged accesses fall again into human identities, where you have privileged access to environments and being able to do more than a regular user. And you have your machine identities that also are more open. The way we're tackling it, we're giving classification to application, to identities, to managed accesses, through which we can control who has access to what and at what time. So that's always in a controlled way.
And lastly, how are you staying ahead of the threat actors in any other way?
My personal role is that I'm responsible for identity and access management, so I can control that part. I'm part of the global CISO, and global CISO has different departments. So we have one department that's specifically focused on the threat assessment. They're accessing all kind of different threats that they see. And once they see threats related to identity and access management, they will come to me and we will look at how we can provide a solution to counter that threat.
It's been great speaking to you today, Micha. I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.
I will. Thank you very much.